us your time to tell us some interesting things about QGIS. I understand you're going to share a bit of information about plugins and a few projects that you've been working on, and just some general handy hints that you've learned over your time using QGIS. So yeah, thank you again. And I won't take up too much more of your presentation time. So I'll hand over to you.
Great, thanks, Desiree. So just a little bit about me. I started using QGIS in the wastewater and mine water waste team, and that was based on building a spatial database through QGIS, which could be easily shared with external clients. And from there, I sort of gathered a bit of an affinity. This was when you still had to create relative pathways as referencing to layers, which is now embedded in the new release of QGIS. And then now I work for Cairns Regional Council, and although this has nothing like this, this is not representative of Cairns Regional Council anyway, it's just my personal sort of tips and tricks that I've learned over the years to deal with some of the things that have caught me up and made me pull my hair out and scream at the computer and all sorts of fun things that GIS seems to have that effect on people. Anyway, I'll get right into it. So this screen is sharing for everybody. Everybody can see that, I hope. If you can't see the screen where I'm moving the mouse around on that, then let me know and I'll see what I can do. So to start off with, we'll start at the beginning, and that's accessing QGIS. So I think it's just qgis.org. It's the one we go to, and that's the head page. So QGIS is open source software, obviously. A lot of people just get here and start the download. Personally and professionally, I think that the best way to get the software is to take a step back, to go to the for users layer and get download QGIS and download the most stable long-term release. This will avoid, unnecessary shutdowns, and sometimes tools just halt. Even if in this most stable long-term release, there can be issues of shutdowns and those sort of errors that happen. So I'd recommend downloading now. It's 3.1, and using that as your 64-bit, obviously, and using that as your QGIS software. You can play with the new one, but I wouldn't recommend having work within that, because obviously it'll save to the latest version, and that backwards compatibility can be an issue sometimes. So this is the desktop of QGIS. It's pretty similar to most of the desktops, only it's got all the information ready to go, and you can start to build your desktop from this intro page, from this intro menu. One of the things I do is, first off, set up my menus. Right-clicking on the ribbons up the top here will open up all your other ribbons. And there's just two that I like to use a bit more, and that's my snapping and my resource sharing, just so I have quick access. Now they're plugins, we'll discuss that in a minute, but obviously there's other ones that are pretty important as well, like your layer styling and your tools, which will open up in a collapsed menus, what do they call them, paged menus. So putting those on, and then we have the browser here. Now the browser's got links automatically to all the folders, all the drives, which aren't even on here. So I don't have this many drives, but you can map them obviously. And it opens up, it's got your WMS spaces as well, which you can link through. So say I've got my QTopo linked here. That's just a matter of, putting in your source information for your WMS that you can get from any of the online, just doing a search for QTopo WMS, and that'll give you a base map without having to worry about loading heavy data. I link my favorites page straight away, or my folder that I'm going to be using out of, and I keep that link there, and that way within that, unfortunately I've changed out, but you'll see. I'll load the one I've been working on backwards, just for the time being to show you. So this has all the files within there, including your other folders. It'll include zip folders, CSVs, you know, all your spreadsheets, shapes, tabs, XMLs, all these map project spaces that I've created. It's best to keep, I personally, unless you've got multiple folders, if you're working on a single folder, I would just leave it at that, especially if they have similar data. So you can just keep working on the same, keep those layers fresh and keep saving into that same folder, which it'll default link to when you save as well, which is pretty cool. Now, that's my sort of setup. You can do it as you want. A lot of people get a bit crazy with the ribbons and everything else, but it's completely up to you how you set it up. And then once we set all that up, we get our plugins. So if we manage and install plugins, I'll just show you. These are my plugins that I've installed, and some of them I've switched off just because they're going to confuse things. And some of the ones that I use, that I'll show you how to use, like QPackage and Time Manager, are selected and turned on. Then when you go to your plugins, there's all these plugins with different capabilities that have a multiple uses. Some of them are unstable. I've turned that on. Sorry, in the settings, I've turned on experimental. So they're unstable, and they've not been rectified by QGIS as you know, logged and tracked plugins. But there's some pretty interesting ones in there as well. I don't know if we'll be able to find one where it'll say. But yeah, it'll give you a brief description, and then you're able to see if you want to use that for that. I recommend, like I've done on a rainy day, is just open it up and have a look through the plugins and see what they do. Have a bit of a play with them. If you get caught up, you can obviously, now they have a lot more support for QGIS, go to GitHub or the QGIS documentation, which I've sent a link to Desiree, so she'll be able to send that on to you guys to so you make sure you know what you're looking for. So like I said, I've got a few here that I sort of use, like OzMap, which is the base map for Australia. That one has Queensland globe imagery, which is really cool because it's really clear. I use QPackage, which is what I got this folder. I just took out all the layers that I wanted, packaged it up, and put it into a single folder. So it has all the styles, all the elements of the map have been packaged up and put in there. I've found a new one called Autosaver, which I love because it auto saves the map as you keep working. It's great. QGIS resource sharing is a really handy tool. This one is basically your stylized points, lines, polygons. You get some pretty cool, where's that one, road signs I was using. So you're able to download them without having to build them or source them from other areas. They're an SVG and they'll load straight into your point styles. And Time Manager, which I'll discuss in a bit. I don't actually, that's just in the plugin menu. That one we'll go through a little bit. And then also I've got this quick map service, which I like. I've just found too, but that one's just for the OpenStreetMap, and they do have the other capability of Landsat imagery, you know, and what it will do is you can search an area. So you can select an area, it'll look at the extents and it'll find all the base maps within their conveners that are in that area. that's a good one to play with. That's called Quick Map Service, sorry. So we'll open this up. You can get a look at what I've been doing. I've tried to make it as light as possible so we don't get these long breaks. So this bottom menu's a good one to keep a note of too. You're able to manipulate some of the elements here, such as the rotation and the magnifier and the scale. Also, you can input coordinates if you wanted to. As I open those two elements from the right click on the ribbons, this is my toolbox and my layer styling. So the current layer as it's selected, that's its style. I can play around with that through that. And I just find that, especially when I'm coming to complete my maps and I'm styling on the go, and then I can, you know, work through it. We'll get to the different elements of the styler, but I just wanted to show you that's a cool little thing, and that's through your right click. Where is she? Project style, styler, layer styling panel. That's a good one to have open. You can also do the same with, if you're working with hill shades and that, you can change the azimuth and all that type of information on the fly without having to open it, change it, save it, open it, change it. You can do it as you've got it there. So we'll just go quick. I'll just change my view here, which I've created, and I'll show you how to create these in a bit. But I want to do my time manager one. Now that's just basically what I've done is I've set up the layers with different thematics, and then I've given them a theme through this little eyeball here, just above the, just under the layers. And we're able to create themes from that. But for this, I'll just show you quickly how we create a layer. So we go up to layer and we create a layer. Spatial shape file. I'm just going to call this test. It's going to be a polygon. I'm going to stick to the coordinate system, which is the GDA 2020 zone 55 that I've been using. Here you can add fields for your data. You would make a typing mistake. Oh God. Text, length of text, add to field list. I'll do a created on, change that to the date field, add to field. And you can keep going from there to add all your data layers. And as you create them, you'll be able to populate them. Yeah, because I'm overriding it. As I was telling you before, the snapping is a good tool to have on. Turn it on. I just have these two main snaps of intersection and point, and you'll have to make sure the layer is selected that you want to work with. You can go through the internal menu on the right click and toggle editing, but I prefer to do it from the toolbar, from the ribbons, only because it just gives me, I know where I'm at with that. I don't like to go too far into right clicking unless I'm looking at properties or the attribute table. That's a personal choice. And then once you've turned the editing on, just in the editing bar here, it will show the type of geometry you're working with. So whether it's a point, line, or polygon, that'll show up there. And that's the add polygon feature. And then obviously next to that, you've got the adjust the vertex tool. So see that pink box, we're snapping automatically to those points. Left click, left click, left click. And if you see the, I'm pointing at my screen, so I'm going to help you. If you see the dotted lines, so they haven't been confirmed, you need to left click first to get a solid red line, and then right click to finish. And that'll bring up your attribute information to be filled. Site 1, unknown, and then I'm going to give it a date, give it today's date. And that'll create that. And then you're able to, if you wanted to adjust that, sorry, right click, left click. So right click to select, left click to select and move. Right click, no, left click to end. Oh, left click to end. And then that's changed that shape. So that's your vertex, that's your create. Once you're done, toggle off your editing, save it, and you'll be able to see your what you've got created in your layers there. And say if I've forgotten to add a field, I go back into editing in the attribute table. I'll add another layer, another field. I'll call this code. I'll make that an integer, and I'll make that 10 spaces long just to give it a bit of play, and that'll create my other column. I'm able to fill these columns through an expression as well. So say I want to do, sorry, I'll go into code here, go into code, and I'll say it equals ID. Okay. I'll update all, or I can update selected if I've only got selected records to update. Turn that off again, save, done. Just remove that because it's going to confuse things. So that's, you know, some of the most basic sort of creation in there. There's more, you know, more detailed when you get into splitting polygons, buffering, and all sorts of tools, moving polygons. But they're basically going to be when you set it up from this editing tool, there'll be these. I think this. Sorry, this is more. This is the advanced digitizing toolbar. So you want to make sure you get that advanced digitizing toolbar turned on with your other toolbar there. So we can also bring in layers. Can add layers. You can add from any of these, but I mean, you can be specific, but I just add the first one and then you can change as you go. It's just a menu-based adding. Limited text, so you can do your spreadsheets of points, got all your information there. Using the first record, has field names, rasters, vectors. Cool thing with QGIS is the community that's out there. So one of the nice little places I find in the QGIS hub, I've sent this address to you too, as well, is this styling for the style manager. And you can do all sorts of cool things, you know, adding different styles, the water polygons and things like that. Basically, you open the XML, save the XML, and then you're able to open the style manager and you're able to add these XMLs, import them. Go to file, dots, and these are the XMLs here. So I've imported the dimensions and I've imported the water. And then if we want to do that, we can go into something like this. Sorry, it keeps coming up on the other side. I've got to use my style manager, and then we can change that to the water style. And there you go. That's what it looks like. I'm just going to change that back because I've got a reason I've got that there. Okay. And resource sharing does a similar thing where you can download the points going into something I've got here. You go into the, I'm going to confuse you here, sorry. Go into the symbol, these are points, these are SVG markers. So from the marker, I want to look at this menu, and you'll see the style manager icon here as well as where it is up here. So you can add them from here, but then I've got my different styles that I've added. I'll just go to all symbols. Sorry, we'll go to favorites, is it? Where'd I put it now? I don't think it's in here, sorry. I haven't added it. Oh, SVG, there, that's why. So you have to drop down the menu. It's one of those catch points. And you change this from simple marker to SVG marker, and that'll be the files down here. It's in row signs from the official repository. And you're able to select that as your point. That is 130, whatever. I'm just leaving those because they're separated. I want to show you them later. Now, so we can also do the most common thing and select and create. So if we select this block, oh, sorry, I need to be on the layer to select it. Select this block, hold down Shift and select multiple parcels here. We can then right-click the layer we've selected from, export selected features as the shapefile, change the coordinates. I'm just going to call this test again. I don't want it as a shapefile, actually. I'm going to save it as a tab file just because I want to be different. And you can export the symbology. You can go through these different menus and be a bit more specific. You can change the columns that you've got there as well. It's built by, so QGIS is good in that it's built by spatial professionals for spatial professionals. And now that I've exported that, I'm going to apply one of the other fills that I've got here. I'm going to have to go to simple fill. Am I? No. Oh, here. Sorry. Again, I get caught up. So this other menu here that says colorful, it's got a drop down here. I'm going to go to polygon dimensions, and that's going to give me the dimensions for all those polygons. I'm going to select it and change the color to no brush, apply, okay. And that's going to give me the dimensions of all those blocks, and done pretty neatly too.
That's cool.
So that's a cool little tool. I've been searching for something like that. And I know that even in ARC, they've had trouble doing this type of stuff, but, and there are like chainages and other elements in plugins that, like I said, spatial people really need to use when they want to use them. So, yeah, just remember to, as you're working, select that layer to use it. Now, just get into the more technical side of creating a layout and creating multiple different maps for the same object or same area. So I use themes, and themes are awesome. So you can create themes, and I've got a bunch saved here. And basically themes are based on what layers are turned on at that time. So if I turn on cadastral, and I'll turn on locality, which for some reason is dark brown, it's bloody terrible. I'll make that red, and I'll turn the fill off. I'll actually increase that a bit too. I'll turn the cadastral region off there. Oh, what I'll do is I'll show the regional ecosystem instead, just a little less detailed. So say I wanted something like that to show in my final map, or to have as an example. I'll then save that as a theme. I'll add a theme, I'll call this one example. And then I'm able to switch between them. So example, I'll switch to one I've called imagery. And then I'll switch to one called labeled. And so I can put different map bases, and these can be completely different. I'm only using this because that was my area of investigation. That's an overview style. That's that style manager where I've taken blocks and specified style points. I've added points in, and my time manager one. So I'll just run the time manager really quick, but so these you can create GIFs from this and GIFs, I don't know how you like to say it. But the one major part of time manager is you need to have a date field, otherwise it won't read it. And there's a little trick around this too, is with your settings. I'll remove that layer and I'll add it in again. Add the layer. I'm gonna add in city lots, and I've got a date there, and I'm going to press OK. Then the catch point is whether you want it as an accumulative feature. So say you want to show a growth of a region or the spread of something occurring, say disease in a cane field from a point and then spreading out, maybe a bad water supply or whatever. You'll be able to have a very keen spatial understanding of where that effect has spread across over time. So that's accumulate those features over time. I keep it to a low millisecond only because I've got like 20,000 objects in this layer. I press OK, and as you see, it tells you you need to have a date field, or you need to set up a widget for the date there. Will take a little bit because it's 40,000 records. Like I just said, though, you can set up widgets within the property of layers, so you can convert them to dates and have them read as dates, but you're better to set it up as what I did basically was grab my layer, export it as a CSV, created a field or a field for my date, kept it as a date layer, as a date field, joined it back to the original data. But the trick with that was importing it as a CSV will remove it as a date. It won't read it as a date because it just reads it as a text field because of the numbers and the backslashes. So you can import Excel documents, XLMS documents, the native documents, and they retain the date field there. But like I said, I'll show you the widget in a second, just so you know. I've got this series at 1 year. So over 1 year's time, it'll show you this change, basically where the areas I've denoted each year for the areas and how they've accumulated over time. Obviously, you can, once you've done this, you can find a good GIF program where you can paste this all back together. But when you export it, it will export your JPEGs or PNGs numbered at the time of based on the date. So in the order that they're supposed to, how the accumulation has happened, which is pretty cool when you're creating that sort of stuff. I'll just pause that and just show you really quick what I was talking about with the widgets. So if we go into this attributes form, go to date, you can change that there as long as it has that format. It will read that as a date, even if you've imported it as a CSV and it's changed it back to a text field from this widgets attribute form. You can create that back to date. This is very powerful, the layer properties. I would definitely say if you're looking to control the fields and the data and how they look and how they act, this is a very important place to start. But for me, it's looking up on GitHub, seeing what the solution is, and then they tell me, go into the widgets. The widgets are the answer, and that way you can classify the layers as dates, texts. It's pretty easy. Now going to, just so we have enough time to questions, I'll move along a bit quicker now, but going to the Atlas or the layout manager, I use the Atlas quite a bit to produce content. I work with a small non-for-profit that's been trying to restore the reef, and they're very interested in printing out these reports without having too much to do with how these reports come about. Now, what I've set up 4 maps, sorry, based on different themes. I'm going to turn on my preview for the Atlas. What I've done is I've taken this overview layer and I've made this the information that we're getting. So from this, a field is called locality. In the locality, that's what the number is. Same with the area and the investigation site. So if we look at this city area suburbs attribute table, we can see, sorry, I'll just shift this off so I can turn it back on in a second. We can see that its locality is here. I've got my area here in square kilometers. For that one, that was a little bit of work because I had to create an expression to round it down to 3 places. And I had to steal the superscript 2 from Word. Which I think I've done. I should have an account just for that. And then I've put together, so what I did was I created 2 fields just so I could call this investigation site. So there's invest, which is investigation site, sorry, and then there's site, which is the site. But obviously, as you go, you could call that, say, investigation site 1, previous investigation site 1, future investigation site. That way you get a bit more control when you create the fields with the information within it in displaying it in a layout. And that's just based, these are just based off calling this main overview layer. And that is because that overview is set up as our Atlas. So we've set up the coverage layer as this city area suburbs. There's a bit of trickery to this within these layers and different parts. So I would recommend it. I've sent you a copy of an online tutorial that really helped me called Material Design Atlas. It's a large tutorial, but if you go through that, you'll really understand atlases and how to call expressions and different things to get the information you want. The cool thing with Atlas is, as we progress, I've based this legend on this map and this regional ecosystem layer. As we proceed through the map on the different Atlas extents, which are based on the suburb extents, that's just showing you the extent of the boundary box of the map, but we're basing our Atlas on these suburbs. It gives us a suburb name, and then it gives us how these regional ecosystems are interacting with that particular suburb. So as you see, we go through, it changes. And then even though these areas are on the map, they're not within our frame that we're looking at. So it doesn't give us any of that other information. It only gives us the information that interacts with that boundary, which is no concern at present. Same with this, with the Cairns City. It only interacts with the water, so we only get the water and the non-remnant vegetation. So as we go through, they all change, but they all stay on their own theme. So as we look in the maps, activating this, I've set it I've set it with the theme it needs to follow and the layers. I've said controlled by atlas, so it'll change every time this atlas looks at a different layer or different extent of a polygon. This will change. You can control the atlas by a point line or polygon, but I usually keep to polygons. And I usually actually make my own index of squares. But for this, I'm using the suburbs, which is just as valuable. And I'm giving it a 2% around the features, so we get them all in the boxes. The overview is not there. Sorry, so we need to go for this one. Is our overview. And this overview just gives us this red box. This is how we create this red box. We can change that obviously. So I can change that as it normally is to like a solid red, and I can change that to say blue. And then I can make this line thicker and make it a dashed line if I wanted to. And that way that just changed that overview. I just go back to the thing and that overview stays. And even when I change the atlas, that stays as the overview element. Geez, I moved through that pretty quick. Sorry, guys. I don't know if I've left you all behind, but feel free to ask me anything at the end and we can go back through it. Just wanted to show you, oh, that's right, with the legend item. So with the legend item, we basically tell it what we want it to look at. If we want, we can auto update, which will show all layers shown, or we can select the layers. And then we can base our selection. So if you've got multiple, say you've got regional ecosystems here, and in this one you've got bushfire, you can have those two legend and they'll react based on that, on those elements. So if I go, I'll complicate this a bit and then I'll add my cadastral data, which is not what I wanted, sorry. No, it is what I wanted. It's just not in the, it's just not turned on anywhere. That's why. Silly me. So I'll turn on city lots, and what I'll do is I'll add that as, I'll turn on Qtopo as my theme. I'll add city lots, and then I'll replace the theme of Qtopo. Go back to the layout then. And as I go to, hopefully, the city, I'm not getting city lots still. What's going on? Oh, that's because it's based off that one. Sorry, guys, that's a little bit of playing I'll need to do on my part because it's based on map 2. Map 2. But yeah, you can play around with that, and then if you wanted all of them there, you can show them all. They're all going to be linked. One little catch point with this is you see how I've made the boundaries different. So this one's blue, this one's red, this one's red, this one's green. I've had to duplicate the layers. So this is the original layer, and then I've just gone to here, duplicate, and I've just named them what map I wanted to show, the imagery or whatever. I'm going to turn that back because I don't like that. So I'm going to replace the theme again for Qtopo. And then we're back to, should be finished, fixed. Yeah, there we go. So that's fixed. Oh, it's added only that one because that's the only one in there that's showing. So I can auto update it, and that'll show any that are on. Only show items inside the current atlas feature. There's a lot of power in this layout. You can add your text, north arrows, polygons, shapes, attribute tables. So we just create it. there's the attribute for the ecosystem. I've never actually done this one, so I might just go back to city lots. Just got even more information. Suburb. So you can just add that to your layer. And obviously with this one, there's a little bit about, we're going to make this only 2 rows, and you can play with the design of it. Don't want horizontal lines, and I want vertical lines. I don't want this heading to be so big, so I'm going to go smaller. Which, oh, that was the other thing too. These font headings, they're really cool. You can just roll your mouse and it'll change them, or you can open them and change the size. And yeah, so that's pretty powerful stuff. Particularly thinking that I don't think Arc does that as a natural way. Usually I would have to import CSVs or something. Adding pictures, so you can add your recorded pictures to there, put your image source in. I don't know if I've got any photos in mine. God, I hope I'm not showing you anything too much. See if I've got, oh yeah, I've got a photo. I hope I don't show you the wrong one now. Here you go. So that's a tree. That was the other thing. I tried to get into photo imports, but that was just something you guys will have to play with. That's a that's a cool little tool, cool little plugin. Photo imports, this one here. You can just basically, as long as you have your phone calibrated and it's a newer smartphone, you can import a folder, select that folder, select the output file location, and it'll get those GPS coordinates from the photo, which is what smartphones do now. They register all photos with the location, and you're able to show a visual display of those photos. And then you go onto here and you tick on the photos. I will show you, I did create it, but it didn't quite work, unfortunately. See if I can add that layer just so I can show you. It's in photo. Oh. Photo test. Close. That's why, because it's yeah, that's why I didn't actually do it, because it was reading it as WGS84, which is his native thing, but you can basically press on those photos. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to show you. And you can see how it gets like a yellow dot. You can flow through those photos. And there's a cool one of the Barren Falls in full flight here somewhere. Oh, there you go. So that was Barren Falls. But yeah, photo import, very cool. And you can just do it with your phone. And like I said, very powerful themes. I use them all the time, even when I'm not creating a layout, just to swap between, say, I want to look at something with imagery, and which I need to go back to because now I've gone off the place, zoom to layer, and say, yeah, look, I want to look at the same area, but I'm sick of looking at it like that. So I want to look at just the regional ecosystem in that area. You know, you can, it's got a lot of power behind it. And then when you come, I think if you set it up first, then when you come to your layouts, you've got all that power ready to go, and you can produce multiple layouts to record the same sort of area. And I think for you guys, it gives you about 5 minutes to ask me some questions. So I think that's about it from me. Like I said, I've sent Desiree the information for you guys to get a hand on. She will hopefully hand it off to you in the next few days. But I would recommend going to the QGIS system, QGIS homepage, the qgis.org basically, and yeah, having a bit of a play. It's the only way you'll learn with GIS software, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was excellent.
Thank you.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
About the presentation and this dynamic map scenario you showed with the suburbs and everything. Is this just, it looks like you only have one map open. So you've got your overview, but then are there 3 different map frames all connected to that one overview map that you've got there, that one overview set?
Yeah. So they're basically linked to the atlas, which I've defined as the city suburb area. So this suburb area I've selected. I don't think you're able to create multiple atlases. I'm not too sure, but maybe with a maybe there's a possibility of doing that. But yeah, they're all linked to this shape. So as I go through the different pages, it's basically these suburb shapes that is controlling the atlas. Now these are different map frames. So sorry, there was.
I was looking at your main map there, and it looks like you've got the regional ecosystem map on, but then you've got all the other layers. I was just wondering how you can control the different layers that are in each of your map frames to all correspond to one overview.
Yeah, sorry, that's just controlled by the atlas. So I've got the similar layers. Even if I turn these areas off on these other maps, it's controlling. So if I go to this map and then I look at the item properties, I think, no, that's generated, yeah. Follow map theme, controlled by atlas. So it's just that ticking that on, controlled by atlas.
It's just a whole new world. I've never explored anything like this.
So like I said, I'll send you that it's really cool. It's that what's it called now? The Atlas tutorial material design. They go in really in depth because they basically show all the data of multiple sites within a region and how it streams through. That what they did basically was create a view where only the particular area of interest comes up, so you're not surrounded by any other zone, and then they've just thrown a blackout on the yeah, it's very cool. It take you a while to work through it. It's massive, but it's something I found online. It really helped me understand expressions and how to build them quite simply. But yeah, these are all based off this suburb. And like I said, each map has its own theme. So this map is controlled by QTopo, this map by the theme imagery, this map by regional ecosystem. And then, yeah, you can, like data-driven pages, you can create an index, create a scale. And from this little drop down here, you can define how if I had a layer here called scale, that would define what that scale is. So you can define all that through here. And obviously, like with this, you can rotate the map through this. You can change the projections. So you could maybe even do an examination of how it's going to look from zone 94 zone 55 to GDA 2055. There's a lot of different things you can do. Hope that answers you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a really cool way to present information in 3 different ways. So yeah, no, I'm just very curious about that. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Not so much.
Sorry, I've got the cleaners have just popped in, so I'm just going to again.
Not so much a question, but just a mention of QField, the app that for mobile devices, so that you can run QField on your phone or a tablet or whatever. It's free and it's easy to use. We set up one client who was sort of working in remote areas so that you can grab all your imagery and save it onto your device and then go outside phone coverage and have all your imagery cached, which is quite handy when you're out walking around the bush or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, QField is quite handy.
Oh yeah, I've had a look at that. I haven't quite gotten into that yet, but it looks like they're getting more and more. When you look on the QGIS site, they're getting more and more capacity to use it for that purpose. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you can record, I mean, you can photograph things and digitize things in the field, and whether you've got phone coverage or not, and yeah, just sync it back to your laptop or desktop when you're back home, sort of thing, or back in the office.
Yeah, I think we in the consultancy I was formerly in, when they started to roll out ArcGIS, what is it, Collector, the engineers were going crazy. They just absolutely loved it, and I can see, you know, any sort of field app like that is essential nowadays. I think you can't go without it.
Yeah, and traditionally some of those things are quite expensive, aren't they? If you're doing it.
Yes,
but at least with QGIS, you've got this functionality. You can get yourself a really cheap Android device, and you're in business.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. Anything else, guys? Oh, this, sorry. Okay. Well, look, it's I think, yeah, that, like, I would love to hear more about that Q field. Maybe I'll have a look for it tomorrow. But if you have any information on any of the sticking points, because like I said, GIS has that capability of just becoming an issue that you want to have a hard day over. I think it's, yeah, you need, if we have any information around that, I think that'd be great for, because I'm, like I said, I'm working for a non-for-profit called Reef Restoration Society. And people like that, when I started showing them how they could use some of their data they've collected, their response is amazing. You know, they never knew this stuff was out there, and then for free as well. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, you can get an Android device for, you know, $300-400 with a reasonably sized screen on it, and you're in business.
Okay, I'll have a look into that. Yeah. There's nothing else, guys. I think, sorry, I just had that fair from Monday. I keep forgetting I'm sharing my screen. But like I said, all you can do is play with it. You just need to get in there and have a look and play with the different plugins, because the people behind this, and, you know, also the capability to interact with a lot of these tools and create meaningful tools that you process every day, you know, open, change a corner system, blah, 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 export as a shapefile or import as a tab file and export as all those different operations you can have as scripts, as tools that you create yourself. And I mean, they're invaluable when you start to look at the process of what we do in a day and how monotonous it can be at times. I think this is, you know, it's really linked. A lot of these plugins are based off Python scripts. So that's where their foundation is, you know, so.
Not a strong coder. Is there something similar to model building or some sort of graphic interface to run the tools, like a flow chart, something like that, where you can connect, say, if you wanted to do an intersect and a buffer and calculate fields, and there you go, processing modeler.
I've never used it. I've never used it. I can't tell you, but I'm sure it's got the same, so you can export as a script, and that's exactly what a lot of that other software does. Whether it's models, you can export it as a script as long as you've got the right pathways open. Like I said, I've never used it. It would be something that you'd have to look at. I'm sure GitHub or one of the other sites that are out there to assist us, QGIS or GIS people in general, would have heaps of information around it. Yeah, I know Modeler. I miss Modeler. I don't use Arc anymore, and I definitely, that's one of the fun things that I had things figured out for.
How I started to learn how to do Python as well is just, yeah, building these graphic models and exporting what I know I wanted to achieve, but not knowing the syntax and how to do it. So
yeah,
yeah, that's cool. Cool, that has the capacity. So
nothing else, guys?
I'd actually be interested, just could you show us the importing of the photos again? Sorry, there's quite a lot of field crew that take really cool photos out and about, and I'm just thinking about how cool that would be to show on a map, just to be able to scroll through photos of, yeah, cool snakes and animals that they find out in the bush.
So the one issue, look, what I said, when I introduced it, I said, make sure to calibrate your phone. That's because when I had it, I've been unable, living in Cairns, I've been unable for the last few days to get meaningful pictures after doing the Christmas cleanse of my photo collection. So I didn't calibrate my phone, and it's taken the shots a bit further out than I would have liked. And when you import them, so obviously it's a plugin.
It's the core plugin now, I think, isn't it?
It is too, yeah, I think so. It might be. I know that might be on the new version. I know it's become their bread, because it used to be photo to layer, I think it was the old one from 2.18 that I was using. But anyway, import layer. I personally, once I had created, so say for dummy reasons, I've got my documents, I've got my folder here called photo. I'll select the photo. The outward will be, sorry, that's not going back at all to the original, is it? The outward would be in my photo file. I like to keep it in the same, I'll call it repo. Oh, didn't even know you could do it as tabs and stuff. Okay, that's new, because you only used to be able to do it as shape. And what I would do is, once I'd done one lot, I would set up my style in the actual file and save it as a style. And then I would add that there. So what I would do then is I would come in, I would change the symbology. Say, I'll use an SVG just to be freaky. I'll take that. These are all outwards. I'll go like that. Sorry, go back in. Once I've set that up, I'll save my style. And that'll let me save all the different elements I've got in my properties. And I think from that you can also change the coordinate system it's in. So when it's loaded with a style, it'll automatically convert to that coordinate system that you create in the layer configuration. But yeah, that's what I would personally do. And then as you go, you activate this button here and right next to the import button, and that'll give you, double click, make sure the layer is selected, and that will give you the photo. Now, I think, I'll give you the time and date, but I thought, no. There was chatter around adding more information to the photos. So when you display them and you cycle through them, see, but it does still have the yellow outline. That one's got two photos on top of each other. Sorry, just saw that and I thought that's weird.
I mean, like captions or something?
Yeah. So you can obviously like investigate the photo, flip it. I wouldn't, if they were flipped, like if your photo was like that, which it sometimes used to show up on my site investigation photo files when I was doing that database, don't adjusted in here and expect it to stay adjusted, I would go back to, like I use GeoSetter or any of the other photo viewing softwares, and I would adjust it there. And then, yeah, obviously talking about GeoSetter, if you've got photos that aren't geo-referenced or have been brought in incorrectly, you can manipulate them through GeoSetter pretty readily, but I'm not going to get into GeoSetter because that's a whole nother presentation. Yeah, but I like the way it cycles through them. And then, yeah, you're able to, if this was geo-referenced correctly, see this has come in, oh, it's come in as 55. If I change it back to pseudo, should be able to, oh, okay. So it's brought back test repo, but they're still not in the right position. If I look at city lots, I know that's not, because those photos I took were right around the council chambers here. And they've gone out here and out here and out there. So yeah, that's quite quite a bit far off, but that one doesn't have any styling. That's an insane group. Sorry, but yeah, that's what it normally comes in as WGS 84. And I don't know why, but it does that. But if you've got your, the thing is, if you've got your phone calibrated, they will be in the right spot. It's just, and obviously you need to be in open areas like, but you can also edit this. So if I wanted to move these points to the correct position, I can pick them up and move them.
You can append more photos to this layer as well.
You can. The problem is that you'll have to fill the cool thing I found with import photos is the attributes it gives you.
Yeah,
So
the easiest way to add more photos would be to just chuck more photos into the same folder and then just regenerate the file again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if it doesn't have, like if you were to do it like without a coordinate system, you just have to fill out this relative path. Once you place the point, create a relative path, and that'll give you the path to the, because that's what this, looking behind the tool, that's what this button calls on when it's got the selector there. It calls on the relative pathway here.
But yeah, it is a really easy tool to use. We use it a lot.
Yeah, it's very effective.
And this one gives you the timestamp from the phone too. So if you've got that information, which should be a date, as I said, if it's not, you can change it in the widget, but it should give you the date in that way. You can even look at Time Manager as recording the points, like for your electric ants sort of investigation. Oh, this was seen on that date. This was seen on that date. You might be able to track, you know.
Totally. I'm even just thinking about, you know, like taking samples of suspect yellow crazy ants, and sometimes they're not, you know, and like those might help reduce the risk of false positives as well, false negatives.
It's a quick and easy way of recording a location. If you're out in the field, you just take a photo. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a rock or whatever, because it's easier than getting the GPS out or something like that. You just take a photo and then you've got it's geolocated. And if you've got a field book, you can put that on the ground and take a photo of the field book open next to what it is. And then you've also got your notes next to a location. So it's quite useful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, if you've got those photos and they're not referenced, I mean, you can bring them in as points. You can just add points here. And just give it, you know, whatever the number is or whatever. Although that's got no information in it to find, you can still create the path. So you can use that in that, you know, you can make that then and just fill out the attributes as you need them. I don't think this is a date field.
Just you'll get all the stuff though if you move the photos, right? It's talking to that file path. So if you move the photos or chuck it in another folder, it's going to mess up your layer. that right?
No,
No?
no, it shouldn't do. No, you just have to fill the information. You have to fill up the so if you've got the photo, you just put it in that relative pathway, whatever that say. It's like photo dated 2018 or 2018 photos. You just fill out the rest of the information, the relative pathway and the folder description as I showed you, but you would have to adjust this if you wanted to do time management. So this timestamp, you would need to change that to a date. And then you would need to write what format it's in, which I think was this, which was this format. But yeah, you can add anything you want in there as long as you have the information and where the photo, because it's like I said, it's drawing on this field to find it. In this folder photo, it's drawing on this image that I've put it at. So you can put anything in there and then you just basically go through. You've got lat long there. You could just go through and update lat long. So just to show you real quick, long, do an element, you go into fields, longitude equals, you're gonna trip me up here, geometry. I think there's a longitude. I think it's just X. No. Is it what X? Maybe that's not going to work. Just update selected. Oh. Anyway, I forget the code now. But yeah, you can just update that. But I would, if you put that in the folder, it's only going to screw up other information. You're not going to have this there and that there. If it's based on a Apple iPhone, mine is an Oppo, and I have to use a surveying-based app to get the azimuth. But if you use Apple, it's got it built in from the Apple 5, I think, the Apple iPhone 5. And that way you can also record direction. So you can look up and down the street and it'll record those arrows. That's just another style element in your symbology. Sorry, we'll do this as a simple point arrow. And then when you go through, I think it's on the controlling element. Layer rendering, is it? Oh, I'm sorry, I forget now, but there is it's in here in the symbol menu. You can control the direction of the marker. So vector field marker. Oh, there it is. So you use, is it, I'm not too sure. Sorry, I can't remember, but yeah, you can create, you can look at it as the azimuth and that'll look at your direction.
Well, good. That's pretty cool. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the people? Just mindful of the time, getting close to 7 people, probably got things to do. So if there's anything from anyone else out there?
No.
No, that's great.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. That's great.